Okay, started, sir.
Om yo brahmanam vidadhati purvam yo vai vedanscha prahinoti tasmai tam hadevam atmabuddhi prakasham mumukshurvai sharanamaham prapadye asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om shanti shanti shanti. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwarah, Gurur Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha, Gurave Sarvalokanam, Bhishaje Bhavaroginam, Nidhaye Sarvavidyanam, Sri Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Okay, so we are in the midst of Nididhyasanam section of Viveka Chudamani. We started from Shloka 254 several weeks back, and we are the last session we finished with 330. Shloka number 330 is where we left off. We will start with 331 now. So in all these shlokas, the Acharya has been elaborating on the importance of Nididhyasanam, how to perform Nididhyasanam, and in that how to perform Nididhyasanam, he has given two contrasting methods. One is to focus on the non-reality of anatma or negating the anatma, and the other positive way of Nididhyasanam is to owning up the Atma Swarupam or owning up of our true nature as Satchit Anandam. And in between, he also, in several shlokas, he warned us about the dangers of losing focus from the Nididhyasanam and slipping back into the old habitual way of living. So, to put in a very simple 2-3 sentences, Nididhyasanam essentially means leading a very mindful and a very cautious way of life, a very, I think mindful is the best word, very meditative way of life, if you can say, not losing focus on the core teachings of Vedanta and trying to spend as much time as possible contemplating the teachings of Vedanta and reflecting upon the meaning of what it means to own your Brahma Tattvam or own your Brahma Swarupam. Yeah, so that is essentially what is Nididhyasanam. So before we read 331, if there are any questions, anybody has any doubts, we can spend some time, or shall we straight away go to the shlokas?
Vasudevanji, just
Yeah.
one question I have. Generally, applying to what I have learned with you so far. So until now, you mentioned, right? Adi Shankaracharya is saying in different approaches how to lead this life with awareness, mindfulness, and not yield to our vasanas and other things. But these are all generally warnings, advices, or also suggestions. But are there any practices that is also mentioned in Viveka Chudamani that will help us reach that mental state?
Well, this entire section is about the practice only. Okay. So, of course, when you say, if you are talking about any specific sadhana,
Yeah, correct.
then you're probably asking for some kind of meditation or some such thing that is there. You
Okay.
can sit in meditation for 15-20 minutes regularly and chant some shlokas. That is also part of, that is also called nididhyasanam. But
Okay.
that nididhyasanam is not sufficient. That is what the Acharya is trying to say. What
Okay.
the Acharya is trying to say is, while sitting in meditation for 20 minutes and chanting some shlokas is a good practice,
Mm.
it is encouraged and it is worth doing, but that is not sufficient.
Okay.
It is not sufficient because if you just focus 20 minutes of your day in nididhyasanam, and for the rest of your waking life if you behave like an ajnani,
Mm.
then all the teaching is useless.
Yes.
So the very objective of nididhyasanam is to make sure that our behavior is transformed in accordance to the teachings. And
Okay.
our we have been living our life in a certain way before we came to Vedanta, before we underwent Shravanam and Mananam. That
Yes.
way of life could have been good or bad depending on what kind of personality you had, but still there would be some aspects of that past lifestyle which would have been problematic. It could be either some kind of a temper tantrum or some kind of an impatience or some kind of an emotional issue which which might continue in spite of Vedanta.
Mm.
So the nididhyasanam is to focus on those disturbing aspects of one's personality. It could be different for different people. It may not be the same
Okay.
for everybody. Yeah. So
Mm.
each one has to apply the teaching to themselves and see where there is a gap between what the teaching says and what we are doing and bridge that gap. Okay.
Okay.
So
Mm.
to get some guidance on what are the so-called qualities that one should develop, you can go to Bhagavad Gita and look at all those slokas in various chapters
Mm.
which talk about sthita prajna or parabhakta and all that. So there is a whole section in the second chapter after shloka number 54. There is a whole section in chapter 12, after shloka number 13 and onwards. Similarly, there are other chapters. In the sixth chapter, there are some hints. Everywhere in Bhagavad Gita, there is something or the other. In the 13th chapter, you have the 20 virtues, which which is given in the name of jnanam, amanitvam, adambhitvam, ahimsa, kshantirarjavam, all that. So if you list all the qualities, it will run to some 50, 60 different qualities. And
Okay.
you can choose the top 3 or 4 where you think you need improvement and focus on bridging those gaps, not while sitting in meditation, but while transacting in the world. That is the most
Mm.
important aspect of nididhyasana.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
putting
Okay.
putting the teaching to practice in your everyday transactional life is where the successful nididhyasaka sees the benefits.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. That was the like a key message what you mentioned. Applying it in transactional life is really crucial.
Yeah. So
Okay.
my guru says if you have just gone through Shravanam and Mananam,
Mm.
you have just got information, but it is the
Okay.
nididhyasanam that brings about the transformation. Okay.
Mm.
So while having information is necessary, it is not sufficient unless you have gone through the transformation. That information is useless.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Okay, Vasudevanji. That's a key difference. I will, try to internalize that as much as possible.
Yeah, and that's precisely why nididhyasanam is a very slow process. It takes a long time because what we have learned over last several janmas, we are
Mm.
now trying to unlearn and relearn. So that unlearning process is not easy. It has to be very patiently adhered to.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
So we'll go to 331. Okay. Shruti Smriti Nyaya Shataihi
Shruti Smriti Nyaya Shataihi
Nishidhe
Nishidhe
Drishyettrayah
Drishetrayaha
Swatmamatim karoti.
Svatmamatim
Svatmamatim
karoti.
karoti.
आत्ममतिं करोति
Upaiti dukkhopari dukkhajatam.
Upaiti
Dukkopari
dukkopari
dukkhajatam.
dukkhajatam.
दुःखोपरि दुःखजातं
Nishiddhakarta sa
Vishiddha
Nishiddhakarta
karta
sa
cha
निषिद्धकर्ता च
malimlucho yatha.
malim lucho
malimlucho
मलिनलुचो
yatha.
yatha.
Shruti smriti nyaya shatair nishidhet drishyेत्र yasvatmamatim karoti upaiti dukkhopari dukkhajatam nishiddhakarta sa malimlucho yatha. Okay, so Shruti smriti nyaya shataihi nishiddhe. Nishiddham means negated. Nishiddham is negated. What is negated? Drishye. Drishyam here means the objective world, the external world. All that you experience as the objective world is here called drishyam. Okay. So that external world has been negated. Negated by what? Shruti, Smriti, Nyaya Shataihi. So Shruti refers to the Upanishadic teaching. Smriti refers to the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. And you could also take the teachings of Vivek Chudamani also, because Vivek Chudamani is also in some form a Smriti. Smriti Grantha, or you can say Prakarana Grantha, whatever. So Vivek Chudamani is a commentary on various Shruti teachings, Shruti and Smriti teachings. So all these teachings, what do they tell you? You know, the core Advaitic teaching is Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. So that Jagan Mithya has been proven in various ways. Nyaya means logic or reasoning. So the teachings of the Upanishad and the teachings of Bhagavad Gita are not just some dogmatic teachings. They are based on solid logic. And what is that logic? That logic is Drik Drishya Vivekam. That is, Drik means the observer and Drishyam is the observed. So the logic you apply is whatever can be objectified is not the observer. Yeah, you want to say something, Kishoriji?
No.
Okay. So Drik Drishya Vivekam basically is the core logic that is employed almost across the table in Advaita Vedanta. All that you can objectify is not you. So that Brihadaranyaka Vakyam Neti Neti, I have not said this Neti Neti for a long time. So in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, there is a mantra that ends with Neti Neti, Na Iti, Na Iti. That means you negate everything that you objectify, everything that you experience with your sense organs. And finally, what remains after you negate everything? The negator, the observer remains, and that is to be owned up as one's own true nature. That is the yukti or the logic or reasoning that we eventually employ. So by employing all these different methods and absorbing the teachings of Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita, we have negated the world. And negated, when I say world, it also includes our body mind complex. The body mind complex is very much part of the world, even though it belongs to us. It is so intimately connected with us. It is still an objectifiable entity, so it is part of the external material world. After learning all of this, if a so-called jnani yaha swatmamatim karoti, if you still fall into the trap of identifying with the world or identifying with the body, swatmamati means to identify oneself with, and falsely is implied, because the external world, your body is not your real nature, but out of habitual inertia, you end up identifying in a fit of moment. If you do that, yaha swatmamatim karoti, what happens? Third line, upaiti dukkopari dukkhajatam. Then this person will continue to suffer sorrow after sorrow. Dukkopari dukkhajatam means one sorrow after the other. he will keep on, he will keep on wallowing in that sorrow, in that samsara. Yeah, how do you say that? Samsara, sorrow, pain, conflict, all that will keep following one after the other. And example here is given in the fourth line. Nishiddha karta sa malimlucho yatha. So Nishiddha karta means one who has performed an act that is prohibited, a crime, you can say. Nishiddha karta is a criminal, one who has committed a crime. Malimlucho means a thief. I'm hearing some crosstalk. Is that accidental or okay?
Sir, it was accidental.
Right. So, Malimlucha means a thief. And what is this thief thing? That is actually a reference to a certain story given in the Chandogya Upanishad. That we will see in the next shloka. But then the background is, I'll tell the story when we go to the next shloka. But in Chandogya Upanishad, there is a shloka in which a lie detector test is applied by a king. That is the background to this Malimlucha. Okay, so Malimlucha means a thief. A thief in this particular context, the word Malimlucha has a very specific meaning. One who goes about or roams about with an evil intention. One who goes about or roams about with a bad intention. That is called a Malimlucha here. Okay, and he is nothing but a thief. One who is a potential criminal. Okay, Nishiddha karta sa malimlucho yatha. So this sorrow that one will experience by falsely identifying with the world will be similar to the sorrow that a thief will experience, and that experience of the thief we will see in the next shloka. So that is a suspense there. So next shloka, until we go to the next shloka, you will not really know what this thief thing is all about. Okay, so leaving aside the thief part, is everything clear in the 331, or are there questions?
It's clear.
Okay.
Clear, sir.
We'll go to 332 then. Satyabhisandha ratha. Okay, sandhana. Okay. Satyabhisandhana rato vimukto.
Satyabhisandhanarato
Satyabhisandhanarato
vimukto
vimukto
Mahatvam atmiyam
Mahatvam atmiyam
upaiti nityam.
upaiti
nityam
Mithyabhisandhana ratastu
mithyabhisandhanarato
nashyet
nashyet
drishtam tadetat
drishtam tadetat
achaura chaurayoho.
Achaurayoho.
Okay, you can also say achora chorayoho. That's also allowed. Okay, so satyabhisandhana rato vimukto mahatvam atmiyam upaiti nityam mithyabhisandhana ratastu nashyet drishtam tadetat yadachora chorayoho. Okay, so now what is this story in Chandogya Upanishad? There is 6th chapter, there is a section in Chandogya Upanishad where a story is told. A person is brought in front of the king in his court and is accused of having stolen something. It is merely an accusation. Nobody has actually seen him commit the crime. It is a suspicion. So they caught someone and they brought him to the court and just accused him in front of the king. This fellow has stolen something. Okay, and they have not even recovered that stolen object. Okay, so there's some kind of an allegation. But then the king has to render justice, and as they say, justice should not only be rendered, it must appear to be rendered, they say. Okay, so the king has to somehow satisfy himself and the court that he has not been partial and he has, followed some kind of a due process. So apparently in those days, they used some kind of a lie detector test whenever somebody is accused of any such crime. They are asked to make a statement, like in the court they say, no, do you, what is that called? It's accepting the crime. Do you accept that you have committed a crime or not? Plea. Plead guilty. Yeah, either you plead guilty or you plead innocent. Okay. So the accused is supposed to make a statement. He is either supposed to plead guilty or plead innocence. And normally, even somebody who has actually committed a crime may not always plead guilty. So they will then plead innocent. And once they have pleaded innocent, they will be a red hot object of iron. It's called tapta parashu. Parashu basically means an axe. So they heat an axe, iron axe, and put it in front of him. And this person is supposed to touch that hot object with both of his hands. And the belief is, if this person has made a statement of truth, he will not be affected by the heat. Whereas if he has made a false statement, his hands will be burnt. That is the principle or the intent behind the test. Okay, now don't ask me how that is going to work, whether it can be done today and all that. Today, in today's world, I don't think we can try that. But it is found in the Upanishad, so I am just giving you this story. So this is the lie detector test. Okay, so there is a hot object kept in front of the accused, and if he pleads innocent, he is supposed to touch that hot object. And if his innocence is really a fact, he will be protected by that satyam. That satyam acts as an insulation to his hand. Whereas if he has made a false statement, his hands will get burnt. And then on top of it, he will also get punished by the king. So there is a double whammy. Okay, if he is made a statement of truth, he doesn't get burnt, and he is also allowed to go free. The king sets him free. So this is the logic behind the whole story. Okay. Now, how does this apply to our current topic of discussion, Nididhyasana? And how does it apply to the previous shloka? Now let us go to the previous shloka briefly. In the previous shloka, we saw Swatmamatim karoti. That Swatmamatim is false identification with the world. So what is this false identification? It is to say that aham samsari asmi. I am not Brahman. I am samsari. Because that world itself, the world here in whenever we give an example, there has to be a parallel to the teaching. So the world is the hot object. The hot parashu in the example here in the teaching is the world itself. The world itself is the hot object. Now when the jnani embraces the world, saying that aham samsari, that statement is a false statement. So the world will end up burning him or end up causing him distress. Whereas if he embraces the world, saying that aham brahmasmi, I am Brahman, the world will not affect him. So that is the correlation between the example and the teaching. Is that part clear?
Yes, fantastic.
Fantastic, really.
Yeah, so this is the Chandogya example being transported to the 331 shloka. So imagine the world is a hot iron object and you are embracing it. One statement is I am Brahman. If you embrace with the statement I am Brahman, the world will not affect you. But if you embrace this world with the statement, I am Jivatma, or I am this body, I am this mind, then the world will cause you distress. So that is the whole idea in the 332 shloka. Satya abhisandhanarataha means one who is convinced about his Brahman nature. Abhisandhanam means focus, meditation, concentration. You can take all those words. Soaked in that thought. Satya abhisandhanam means convinced about one's own Brahman nature. Vimuktaha, he is liberated. Such a liberated person. Mahatvam atmiyam upaiti nityam. Mahatvam is greatness. Atmiyam is the benefit of dwelling in one's own true nature. You know what we call Brahmanishtha. That Atmiyam is here the Brahmanishtha. Nityam is always, permanently, forever. So a person who carries this thought that I am Brahman, I am Chaitanyam, I am Aham Shuddhaha, Buddhaha, all those adjectives. One who goes about with that thought acquires greatness and acquires the benefit of Brahmanishtha, whereas Mithyabhisandhanarataha to nashyet. If you harbor the false thoughts that I am the body, I am the mind, and I depend on the world, and so on, that thought will lead to spiritual destruction. The word nashyet means not physical destruction, but spiritual destruction. You know, this person has gone through Shravanam and Mananam, but somewhere along the line he slipped and he forgot the teachings, and then that, you know, you should remember that example where we saw the ball slipping from the hand and going to the next floor. So all those examples you have to remember. So it leads to spiritual destruction. Drishtam tadetat yad achora chorayoho. So this achoraha is the non-thief. Choraha is thief. Achoraha is the innocent person. So exactly how the hot object has a different effect on the innocent person and the real thief. This is the connecting the example in the Chandogya Upanishad. Drishtam tadetat yad achora chorayoho. This is explained or demonstrated by the Chandogya story of the thief and the innocent person. That is 332. Okay. All good? Hand went up. Yeah.
Yes, Vasudevanji.
Yeah.
See, the example was really clear. Okay, I understood, and the key message behind it is also clear. But these applied when a person is saying Aham Brahmasmi, or he is identifying with the right, entity or Brahman, and he is or she is aware. Then the world will not affect him or her like hot iron test. But if a person is pleading, as in the court case or in front of the king, if the person is actually guilty but just saying that I'm innocent, meaning I'm Brahmasmi but I do not realize, will the world or the worldly affairs still affect that person?
No. See, the guilty person in the court will not say Aham Brahmasmi when he is not Brahman. That is not how the example should be understood. Okay. Again, I think I have said this in many past occasions. You know, we give an example, and that example is designed for a particular message.
Right.
So you should not extend the example in unintended areas.
Okay.
So you keep the example only in the context of stealing or not stealing.
Okay.
There is no Aham Brahmasmi, Aham Jivasmi, Jivosmi. That question is not there in front of the king. The king is only dealing with a normal person. He is not a jnani. Okay, let's be very clear. The person who is brought in front of the king is not a jnani. There is no Vedantic debate there. It is only a question of did he steal that object or not. That's all. So the example should not be extended to the Vedantic question. In the Vedantic question, we deal only with the Vedanta. There is no king, there is no thief.
Yeah. Okay. I understood, Masudevanji. I mean, I did not try to extend, but my only question was, even if the person who has not realized Brahman claims to be that I am Brahman, will that person still lead himself or herself to the path of moksha or mukti, or will that person still be affected with worldly affairs? Even a false claim of realization.
So this is the third category which is not covered in the shloka.
Okay.
Let's be very clear, because
Fine.
the shloka talks about one jnani.
Yeah.
One jnani who has gone through the teaching, Sravana Manana Karta,
Yes. Got it.
who is going through Nididhyasanam and who continues to be on the path of Nididhyasanam and therefore says Aham Brahmasmi. That is case one. The other case is the same jnani who has gone through Shravana and Mananam suddenly slips and falls and starts identifying with the world.
Right. Okay.
And the case that you are bringing in is a third case where the person has not gone through Shravanam and Mananam. In which case, how does he get the idea Aham Brahmasmi?
Okay. Or even halfway there.
Well, then you have to bring him to the second case only. See, if he is halfway through,
yes, okay, clear now. Yes,
then he is part of the second case.
Okay, right.
There in the if I may say something, in the 6th chapter, Arjun asks, what about people who were on their path but they haven't reached, and what happens to these people? So Sri Krishna says that such people who are halfway to their yoga samsiddhim, they take birth into good families or yogi families, and they with the so to say their
spiritual journey will continue from where they left off.
Exactly. And like this, one takes more and more lives to reach that yoga samsiddhin, and before you get the moksha.
Yeah. So there he uses the word yoga bhrashta.
Yeah, yoga bhrashta. Yeah.
Okay. So those are all different possibilities.
Yeah.
You know, the reference to the 6th chapter is for someone who is continuing on the path of Jnana Yoga, Sravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam.
Exactly.
But his prarabdha cuts him short.
Right.
Okay. So there in Bhagavad Gita, it is the Arjuna talks about someone whose prarabdha shortens the whole journey, and therefore he becomes a yoga bhrashta.
Right.
Okay. But in this Viveka Chudamani example, the person's prarabdha has not stopped him. The prarabdha is continuing, but in spite of his prarabdha continuing, he falls out of his own mistake.
Okay.
Okay, and continues to live in that mistake. That is the point. So we have to distinguish between what Arjuna talks about in 6th chapter and what Shankaracharya talks about in this sloka.
Okay.
Right.
They are two different things. Okay.
Correct.
In the yoga bhrashta case,
the
yoga bhrashta did not slip and fall.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was continuing to do his jnana yoga, but unfortunately for him, the prarabdha was not sufficient.
Right.
Okay.
So his life came to an end.
Incomplete. Yes.
Yeah. So the journey was cut short by prarabdha. His life came to an end. Therefore, he takes the next birth in a good family.
Yeah.
In this case, Shankaracharya is talking about another yogi or a potential yogi who went halfway and then forgot. It is like Jadabharata.
Okay.
You know, he suddenly lost interest or lost his way in the journey and slipped and he strayed away somewhere. That is the case that Shankaracharya is talking about.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, clear, Vasudevanji.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Anybody else with questions, or can we go to 333?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So we'll read 333. Yati rasat
Yati rasat
Rasat
anusandhim
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 bandhahetum vihaya
bandhahetum
Bandhahetum
vihaya
Vihaya
swayam ayam aham
swayam
Swayam
ayam
Ayam
aham
Aham
asmiti
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 atmadrishtya
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 eva tishthet
eva
Eva
tishtet
Tishtet
sukhayati nanu nishtha
sukhayati
Sukhayati
nanu
nanu
nishtha
nishtha
brahmani swanubhutya
brahmani
Brahmani
swanubhutya
swanubhutya
harati param
harati
Harati
param
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 avidyakarya dukkham
avidyakarya
Karya
dukkham
dukkam
Dukkham
pratitam.
pratitam
Pratitam
Yati rasad anusandhim bandhahetum vihaya swayam ahamasmit atmadrishtyaiva tishthet sukhayati nanu nishtha brahmani swanubhutya harati paramavidya karya dukkham pratitam. Okay. Yatihi here refers to the nididhyasaka. Yati generally refers to a sannyasi.
Yeah.
But in this shloka, it could be a grihastha also. A grihastha who has gone through Shravanam and Mananam, who is currently going through Nididhyasanam, is here called a Yatihi. Asad Anusandhim, Bandhahetum. Bandhahetu means the cause of bondage, the cause of samsara. And what is that cause of samsara? Asad Anusandhim. Anusandhi again is some kind of a meditation, some kind of a concentration, concentrated thought process. Asad Anusandhi means false thought process. And what is that false thought process? Is exactly the same as Atmamatim, Swatmamatim we saw in 331. Self-identification with the world and body mind. That is the false identification, and that is here the Asad Anusandhi. Asat means falsehood. Anusandhi is meditation. So Asad Anusandhi is identifying with the falsehood, which is body, mind, complex, world and all that. Vihaya means giving up. So this Yati is avoiding all that. So Vihaya, you can say here, avoiding. He is avoiding the pitfalls of false identification with the world. And Twayam ayam aham asmiti atmadrishthyaiva tishthet. So the word ayam here refers to Paramatma or Brahman. Swayam means one's own self. So he identifies himself with Brahman. Swayam ayam aham asmiti. I am none other than Brahman. That thought, and that is here referred to as Atmadrishtya. So he correctly identifies himself with Brahman. He correctly remembers his true nature as infinity. Brahman really means infinity, unlimited, anantam. That is Brahman. Atmadrishthyaiva tishthet. One who tishthet here means continuously abiding by. So he is a successful Nididhyasaka. So the first two lines tell us that he is a successful Nididhyasaka. He has not deviated from the path. He has been successfully able to keep his mind focused on his true nature of Brahmanhood. So what happens to him? Sukhayati nanu. Sukhayati means he enjoys. He is able to experience the happiness that is the Atma Jnana Phalam. That Jnana Phalam, the benefit of that Brahma Jnanam is happiness. Happiness is not some objective happiness, but a happiness that comes from within. That Purnatvam gives you the happiness. That is Sukhayati Nanu Nishtha Brahmani Swatma Bhutya. That word Nanu is for emphasis. Emphasis means, of course, he will be happy. That's the meaning. Of course, he will be, such a person will be happy. How? Brahmani Swanubhutya Nishtha. So, it's again a repetition of the idea in the first two lines. He is successfully able to lock his mind into the Brahman idea, the teachings of Upanishads. Swanubhutya harati param avidyakarya dukkham pratitam. And he is successfully able to avoid or remove the effect of ignorance. Avidya karyam. Avidya is ignorance. Karyam is the effect or product. And what is that? Avidya karyam is what? No, we have a certain hierarchy. We say avidya, kama, karma. And then karma leads to janma. So avidya, kama, karma, janma. So ignorance is a primary problem. Because of ignorance, one gets into desire, and the desire propels us into performing action or karma, and karma generates punyam or papam, and punyam or papam eventually leads to next janma. That is a chain. So harati param avidya karya dukkham means he is successfully able to avoid that chain of ignorance and desire and karma. And pratitam actually means that which is experienced objectively. And here you can say the word pratitam also refers to the world that is experienced. So essentially the world is seen as a prison by many people. One of the causes of samsara is that the person feels imprisoned. Either he is imprisoned in his own body, or he feels imprisoned by the circumstances. So the world is perceived as a tyranny. So you can say that the param avidya karya dukkham pratitam means that effect of ignorance extends all the way to the world, and he avoids all that misery. Okay, so that is the successful what do you call that? Successful completion, consummation, you can say that. That is a successful consummation of the nididhyasanam process. This is how the jnani who successfully completes nididhyasanam eventually ends up. He is always a pleasant and carefree and worry-free person who is able to look at things positively and doesn't get trapped in any kind of sorrow or negative situation. So that is the whole idea. Okay.
Yeah.
Any questions?
It's clear.
Just the sharing, sir. It's really difficult. That last portion, as you said, it's really difficult.
Yeah, I mean, see, you have to understand one thing. These are all some kind of an ideal towards which you can keep working.
True, sir.
Okay, it's a little like your asymptote. In hyperbola, there is something called an asymptote. The hyperbola and the asymptote, they meet at infinity.
Yeah.
So you can keep on traveling, and you can that serves as a compass. So while on the one hand you might say that this is very difficult to achieve, very idealistic and all that, But if you keep your focus on that ideal, you will at least stick to the path and not deviate from it. It
True.
serves as a compass for you.
True, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
We'll try, sir. Thank you, sir.
And the whole idea is, here the Acharya has a kind of a hidden message.
Hmm.
What is the teaching of Vedanta? Vedanta is telling you that you are limitless. You are the source and spring of fountainhead of happiness. You don't have to look outside for happiness, that you are happiness. That is the message. Okay. And that is a very positive message, and our mind would generally be very ready and happy to dwell on a positive message. Okay, let's say you meet somebody who heaps praise after praise on you. He praises you to the end of the world. You would want to keep listening to that praise for the rest of the day. Okay, and Vedanta is doing exactly that. So Nididhyasanam is something that should come naturally to us, because the message of the Vedanta is what? That I am infinity, I am happiness, and all that. But even though Nididhyasanam is something that should happen by nature, by natural process, there is an obstruction to it in the form of the world. So the world comes in between and obstructs your Nididhyasanam. So you have to somehow avoid that obstruction, get rid of that obstruction, and then Nididhyasanam will happen naturally. That's the whole point. Because the message for the Nididhyasanam is a happy message. It is not a depressing message.
True.
And because it's a happy message, it should be coming naturally to us, because we like to praise ourselves. But the world comes in between as an obstruction. So the moment you remove the obstruction, the Acharya wants to say Nididhyasanam will just happen without effort.
True, sir. What I see is the main obstacle is overthinking about the future. That's one thing. The second thing is the bondage with friends, family. That kind of a thing is what I see as an obstacle, at least at this stage of my life. So just a little sharing to the teaching of that we are not this body and we are not this mind. There was a Buddhist philosophy. Can I share, or it's not allowed?
You have a story, is it?
No, sir, just a philosophy. I mean, there is a master called as Shin Han Chi. He is now presently a Buddhist Shaolin monk, and he shared this. How you can say that you are not your body or mind, but can I share it here?
Yeah, go ahead. Let's hear it.
I mean, beautifully he said, just in one day, one shot, he said, if this body is you, if this body is me, if I say stop aging, it should stop. It doesn't stop. So this body is not me. If I'm the mind, and if I say I have to think about this, I have to sit for meditation or anything, it is going away. So which means I'm not the mind. So the remaining part is you. So he just finished it so simply.
Okay.
So beautiful it was. So I just thought of sharing it, because that also came under the teaching of Vedanta.
Okay, that's nice.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Very good. Right. So that was 333. Can we move on to 334? Any questions from anyone? No one? Okay. So Bahyānusandhihi Parivardhayet Phalam Durvasanameva Tatatstatodhikam Jnatva vivekaihi Parihritya Bahyam Svatmanusandhim Vidadhita Nityam. Bhakyanusandhihi parivardhayet phalam durvasanameva tatasthatodhikam Nyatva vivekaihi parihritya bhakyam swatmanusandhim vidadhita nityam. Okay, so Bhakya Anusandhihi. This is again the Mithyabhisandhanam of the 332 shloka. That is obsessing with the world. Anusandhi can also be called obsession. Anusandhi can be treated as obsession also. Bhakya Anusandhi means being obsessed with the external world. And external world, as I said, includes the body mind also. Okay. Parivardhayet phalam. Parivardhayet means it kind of enhances itself. See, vardhanam means to increase. Vardhanam is to increase. Parivardhanam is to magnify. Okay, so if you are obsessed with the world, then there is no end to that obsession. So that obsession keeps on, what they call a vicious circle. It just keeps magnifying itself, and it goes beyond control at some point. So Bhakyanusandhim parivardhayet phalam durvasanameva tatastatodhikam. So that durvasana is that ahankara vasana. We talked about ahankara vasana in many of the earlier shlokas. There we saw ahankara vasana leads to karma and chinta. We saw these three things in some of the earlier shlokas. Ahankara vasana, karma, and chinta. You are kind of obsessed with all of them. You are talking about, you're always worried about the next activity, the next plan, and your mind is always thinking about what is coming next and so on. So vasana, chinta, karma, that is here durvasana. Okay. Tatas tatodhikam. So if one is obsessed with the world, all these vasanas enhance that obsession, and you go into a vicious circle. It keeps on increasing. Tatas tatodhikam means it goes one on top of the other. You have one misery and a bigger misery and a bigger misery and so on. So that's a vicious cycle. You go into a spin, so to say. Okay. Nyatva vivekaihi parihritya bhahyam. So by understanding this trap, vivekaihi here means the word viveka is used in the sense of viveki, one who has the discrimination. So the word viveka is a quality. It's the quality of discriminating. And viveki is the person who has the quality of viveka. In this place, the word viveka is used in the sense of viveki. So the viveki understands this trap and parihritya bahyam. He avoids getting into that obsessive trap. And what does he do? Swatmanusandhim vidadhita nityam. So he sticks to performing the nididhyasanam. He sticks to the Vedantic teaching of aham brahmasmi sarvatma bhavaha, and he refrains from getting distracted by the world. And that is very important. Otherwise, he will fall into the obsession trap that the world is always presenting. So the world is basically Maya. And Maya can quickly distract you in a moment. And we saw that story of Narada some 2 weeks back. So the external world is very much capable of distracting even the most focused person. And so the jnani is very cautious when dealing with the world. And he makes sure that he is not drawn into the trap of obsession that the world presents him every now and then. And he continues to carry on with the Atma Anusandhi. Atma Anusandhi is the Nididhyasanam, meditative mindful living, that watchful living. You can say watchful living. You are always very focused on, watching your mind all the time carefully. Make sure that you don't slip from focus. And we have discussed in the previous sections that you cannot completely get rid of ahankara, so you do need a bit of ahankara, but make sure that the ahankara is used like a tool. As long as it is useful in a transaction, you give it importance. Once the transaction is over, you have to withdraw the importance from ahankara and start again focusing on your atma swarupam. So that is this what we call tightrope walking. So nididhyasanam is very much like tightrope walking. So you have to balance yourself. On the one side you have the atma chinta, on the other side you have the pull of the world due to transactions, and both have to be balanced properly, and you continue to walk on the rope. That is the best example you can give for nididhyasana. That is 334. Okay, we have sort of come to our end point, so we can stop for today. If there are any questions or short discussion, we can have for a few minutes. Otherwise, we will stop here.
No questions, Vasudevan.
No questions.
No questions, sir. Thank you, sir.
Lovely.
Thank you. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Then we will chant our closing shlokas and complete. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate Sarvesham Swastir Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you. We'll meet next week. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you, sir.
Namaste.
Thank you.